Over the last several months, we've seen a number of news stories where significant open source projects, Debian, Ubuntu, and many others, have been replacing their core system components with Rust-based clones, taking out sudo and the core utilities and even package management and replacing them with Rust-based clones and putting hard dependencies on the Rust programming language. And for me, that raises a very serious and critical question, and that is this. Can we trust Rust? Can we trust not just the Rust programming language, but the Rust toolchain, and more specifically, the people behind Rust? Can we put our trust in those Rust-based components replacing such core parts of our system? And this may seem like a clickbaity, conspiracy theory, black helicopters coming in over the horizon sort of conspiracy theory. But here's the thing about that. Black helicopters are real things. Sometimes the conspiracy theories are in fact real, and they warrant a little bit of analysis. Let's do a quick analysis. Let's really look at the reality of the situation, and let's come up with an answer. So I put together some of my thoughts and posted them over on X yesterday. I'm going to read them to you now because they're my thoughts. And well, here we go. There are many pieces of software which Lunduke, do not trust. And that includes anything developed in Rust. And one of the most critical factors, if not the most critical, in choosing which software to use is trust in the people who develop that software. And it's not just simply, can I trust these developers to make quality, non-buggy software? That's an important question for sure. But, and this is critical, can I trust these developers to not do something nefarious with my systems, with my data, using their software? The harsh reality is that it is incredibly easy to include backdoors, Trojans, and various bits of very nefarious functionality into the software we use without us ever even knowing about it, even when the source code is completely open. We've seen this. We've seen so many examples of this over the last several years. I don't think I need to explain all of that to you, which means trust is key, absolutely key. Determining which software developers can be trusted, though, is challenging. What makes that determination easier is when software developers tell us point blank that you cannot trust them. And we've seen many examples of exactly that over the last few years within the world of open source. As just a few examples. Projects committing purges of the wrong kind of person. Most often that means conservatives. The labeling of anyone with the wrong politics, centrists, conservatives, non-political people, etc., as Nazis and fascists and rotten flesh, dehumanizing people, vilifying people. We see that over and over again. Shoot, we have a new story about that almost every single week. An alignment of projects with Antifa, encouraging violence against those they disagree with. Encouraging developers to commit crimes and become accomplices, that's a direct quote, against the wrong kind of people. Now, can you trust software developers who do, say, and believe these sorts of things to not do something to harm you using the software which they develop and control? Of course not. Of course you cannot. They are telling you explicitly that they cannot be trusted in that way. They're not hiding anything. They're saying flat out, we intend to cause you harm. Here's our powerful thing we can do. They're saying point blank, again, that they intend to cause you harm. And their most powerful tool to cause that harm is the software you use, which they have control over. The examples of this over the last few years have been numerous. OpenSUSE, Fedora, NixOS, GNOME, KDE, Godot, Wayland, Xorg, Elementary, Asahi, and yes, Rust as well. The examples go on and have been extremely well documented. You're welcome. Now, based on their own actions and their words, Can those projects be trusted? Right? Can you trust them with your data, with your systems? Obviously not. In the case of the Rust programming language, the concern is compounded by the fact that the Rust compiler, Rust-C, is bootstrapped, right? So Rust-C is used to compile new versions of Rust-C. Now, why is that a problem? Well, this makes it incredibly easy, bordering on trivial, to hide nefarious functionality within the compiler itself without the nefarious code even being public. It means it doesn't have to be in the source code repository anymore to have the nefarious code in the compiler. A hidden functionality which can self-replicate for years and years. Ken Thompson provided extensive documentation on how to accomplish this back in 1984 using a C compiler. And that vulnerability applies just as well to the Rust compiler. And just a detour for a second here. It's called Reflections on Trusting Trust. Ken Thompson gave a Turing Award lecture. This was back in 1984, where he revealed that several years prior, he had implemented exactly that sort of thing, a self-replicating, no code being currently visible, Trojan horse inside of a C compiler. And that resulted in basically an almost unfindable, totally hidden little Trojan that no one knew about until Ken told us about it. And what did that do? Well, it meant that any time you use that C compiler to compile the login command for Unix, it inserted a backdoor that only Ken Thompson knew about into it. Now, we could argue about how much that actually got used or how much that was in the wild. But what Ken Thompson showed us was how absolutely trivial that process is to accomplish. And all it takes in order for that sort of thing to happen is one developer working on the Rust toolchain to sneak something nefarious into the compiler one time. And as we've seen over the last few years, the world of Rust is overflowing with political activists and extremists. Now, what are the odds that one of the oh so many political extremists have already hidden nefarious functionality into one of the many projects that they work on, from Rust to GNOME to on and on and on? If I had to guess, I'd say pretty gosh darn high. Now, to continue on this and more pointedly talk about Rust here. The concern with the trust of Rust-based software is particularly interesting, as Rust raises so many trust-based red flags all at once. A large number of developers and activists who have made it clear that they intend to do harm to others based on politics, identity, etc. A bootstrapped single compiler, making it easy to hide nefarious feature injecting functionality without publicly auditable code. Again, it is very simple to do this. And of course, 3, the suspicious, rapid, forced Rust-based replacements of core systems. That last one is a huge red flag. Across a number of large projects, including Debian and Ubuntu, we're seeing forced mandatory replacement of core system components without a clear end-user benefit. In fact, many of those Rust-based replacement components, like sudo, the core utilities, etc., are broken and incomplete, not even passing a limited set of tests, which begs the question, why are they being forcefully incorporated into the systems? It is not for the end user. There is no benefit for people using them. None at all. Not one. There's no mountain of bugs that they fix. There's no glaring security hole that they plug. There's no massive performance degradation of the old tools that these new tools suddenly fix. None. No clear benefit. In fact, it hurts the end user. We get buggier systems. We get less tested systems. In some cases, we get less performance systems. And we have less functionality. So it's not for the end users. And it's not for the support people or to make the developers' jobs easier. Replacing tested, well-understood code with buggy and incomplete code only makes their jobs harder. Support people, marketing people, developers working on the projects, this makes all of their jobs harder. It doesn't make any of their jobs easier. Not at all. And anyone telling you otherwise has not worked in software engineering for all that long. That's just the fact of the matter. So the motivation lies elsewhere. Hence the red flags. Lots and lots and lots of red flags here. And this underscores a wide variety of the reasons why I simply don't trust Rust developed code. And I want to, let me jump forward here just a little bit. I want to make this very, very clear. Someone made mention over on X that not every Rust developer is a nut job. Everything that I listed could just as easily happen in C or any other programming language. And that person who made that point is 100% correct. 100%. Not every Rust developer is an extremist or an activist. In fact, some Rust developers are conservatives. That's just the reality of the situation. Likewise, nefarious code can also be coded in every other language out there, including C. Heck, look at the Ken Thompson example. That was in a C compiler. That said, a few things are worth considering when we're talking about Rust. Number one, the number of extremist activists who have declared an intent to harm others is unusually high among Rust programmers. And realistically, it only takes one, and there are tons, they are legion. Figuring out who to trust is critical, is absolutely critical. And not only are the Rust developers working on the Rust clones an unproven entity, right? We don't have 30 years of experience to point at, well, look at this Rust-based pseudo replacement. It's been in development and in use for 30 plus years without incident and without them betraying our trust. We don't have that. This is all new, untested individuals, all new, untested software with new, untested languages, with new, untested compilers. And the people, a large portion of the people working on the tool chains, working on the compilers, working on the language itself, and working on some of these ports are extremist political activists who have stated, and again, the Lunduke Journal has covered this extensively, who have stated an intent to harm other people. That's a lot of red flags. Also, number two, Rust C, the Rust compiler, is the only game in town as far as Rust compilers go, and it is bootstrapped. Now, there's a lot of good reasons to bootstrap a compiler, meaning to have a compiler build itself, right? A lot of good reasons, a lot of very good reasons to do it from an engineering standpoint. However, from a security standpoint, those two facts put together significantly increase the ease of hiding self-replicating nefarious functionality. This is just the matter of fact. There's not several complete and up-to-date Rust compilers that you can compile the various compilers against. There's one. You get it in there once, you get a little nefarious code in there once, it's self-replicating. That's just how that works. And the number three, the mass forced adoption of unproven, buggy, often incomplete Rust-based replacement software, it raises, again, so many red flags because it's not for the users, it's not for the support people, it's not for the marketing or the sales people, and it's not for the developers, not really. They may say it is, but it's not. So who's it for? I think it's worth asking these sorts of questions. Just as an example, this came up was it earlier today or yesterday? I think this was yesterday. Developers of bin code, one of the crates, one of the libraries for Rust, includes within it a usage manifesto, which blocks contributors who work in certain fields like the military, gambling, the oil industry, etc. And they specifically state that they will ignore bug reports from people who work in those jobs or work in those industries or for those companies. They will not accept code. They will not accept bug reports. You're banned. You're banned. If you fall into one of these categories, they say, do better. And this underscores a lot of what happens within the world of Rust. it is filled, when you look at not just Rust itself, like the project, the core language and compiler and whatnot itself, but as soon as you get outside of that to projects built in Rust, there is just an overwhelming amount of discrimination, segregation, virtue signaling, and generally just anti-people attitudes. And this is pretty standard for the world of Rust. And we see it over and over and over again. And it raises a lot of red flags. If people are so determined to hurt people who are unlike them, and their main source of power to cause that harm is the software they create, well, you're going to tell me that these people who are out there advocating for Molotov cocktails against people in the streets and burning down cars are not going to implement a little bit of a backdoor into a piece of software? Yeah, of course some of them are going to do that. And it only takes one or a couple in order to have a mild catastrophe. And a lot of what happens within Rust is a zealotry, not just religious, but a cult-like fervor, a fevered, unreasonable belief in Rust's superiority. I saw someone post this screenshot over on X again, that they were claiming it's a really great thing. Like, look at this great response. Someone asked on Reddit, where the screenshot originated, why are there so many abandoned crates? Basically meaning Rust libraries, right? And someone responded, the crate, the Rust library, isn't abandoned, it's complete. Rust has a lot less bugs near the end of development, whereas in other languages, there's always an odd bug to keep activity on the project going. And the person's like, oh, haha, it's a rusty bird, haha. And here's the problem, is that is essentially saying this. Rust code has less bugs than other languages, and once Rust code is written, it's perfect, it's infallible. And therefore all other code is bad, is wrong, is evil. This is the logic of someone in a cult. Not a good cult, a very, very delusional crazy pants cult, right? This is fevered. This is unreasonable. This is a belief in Rust supremacy and superiority to an extreme, unhealthy, dangerous, non-logical degree. Rust is a cult. So you've got people who are believing and acting in such a way that they must put forth the Rust supremacy message at the same time, where they must show the non-believers how bad and wrong they are. And those same individuals, in very large part, the Venn diagram is almost a circle, are very strongly of one particular political persuasion. Not completely, but very strongly. And tend to be very extremist activists, a huge number of extremist activists who talk about violence, who talk about their alignment with Antifa and other terrorist organizations, and talk about Molotov cocktailing people. We've covered that here in the Lunduke Journal about a wide variety of projects that make heavy use of Rust, talking about exactly that sort of thing. And it raises red flags everywhere, which all brings it back to the core here. When you pick a piece of software, you need to have at least a slight belief that you can trust the people who make it. And that's a really hard thing to accomplish. When you don't know people personally, it's hard to say, yeah, I trust them. But what, again, makes it so much easier is when the people developing the software say flat out, you cannot trust us. We will cause you harm. Well, then, of course, I cannot trust Rust-based software then. And again, if a piece of Rust software is developed by someone who politically agrees with me on everything, and that person I can trust, I still can't trust Rust-based software because it's compiled with Rust-C. And as was shown by Ken Thompson back in the 80s, and this vulnerability type still exists, and there's no way to work around it at all. No amount of logging and whatnot accomplishes fixing this issue. It is very simple to insert into the compiler a way to insert backdoors, Trojans, and other malicious code into other people's projects when the Rust compiler compiles them. We've seen it. It's been done. We've had it implemented, and we've seen that nobody found it, and no one found the nefarious code, and we were only learned about it when the author came out and said, look at what I did, years later. So no, of course I cannot trust Rust. Now, I'm not telling all of you to abandon Rust. I'm not telling all of you that Rust is a bad programming language. I'm not telling you you shouldn't program in Rust. What I'm telling you is, for a huge number of reasons, the red flags are raising everywhere. The flares are getting fired off. I cannot trust Rust. I cannot trust Rust software on my system. And by and large, I work pretty hard to keep Rust-based software off of my systems. It's just how it is. Because we all have to make this determination for ourselves. Is the software on my computer something I can personally trust? Are the companies, are the people, are the organizations behind it, in my opinion, trustworthy? Meaning, are they going to explicitly do something to cause me harm? And as with Rust and GNOME and a variety of other projects, that risk is far, far too high. Far too high for my liking, considering we have so much software out there where the developers of that software have not stated that they're going to cause us harm. I think I'm going to go with that stuff. I'm going to go with the stuff where they haven't declared war on me and you and centrists and conservatives and Jews and Christians and non-political people, et cetera, et cetera. I'm just going to go with that software. I'm going to go with the meritocracy software where they really just are not focusing on the political activism, because I think I have a better odds of trusting it. That's my feeling on the matter. I'm going to get yelled at for this. I know I'm going to get yelled at for this. That's fine. But this is an important thing to think about. And truthfully, we could focus this entire topic on something other than Rust, like GNOME, and not even mention Rust at all, because this is a topic that applies to a huge number of projects and a large number of pieces of software that raise a lot of red flags in terms of trust. And I think that it's worth having and worth really thinking about this general field of discussion when we start thinking about the software that we have on our computers, that we are putting our trust in. Thank you to the Lunduke Journal subscribers for allowing me to mouth off about this and get myself in a lot of trouble in the process. Go to lunduke.com if you want to support the Lunduke Journal, which I know you do. There's a whole bunch of ways that you can support the Lunduke Journal. Scroll down on that page at lunduke.com. Currently, there's a 50% off deal going on right now, which is good through November 10th. I just extended that through November 10th. Sometimes there's a deal going on, sometimes there's not. But if you want to grab 50% off monthly, yearly, lifetime subscriptions, now is a good time to do that at lunduke.com. It gives you MP4 DRM-free downloads, PDF ebooks that are all DRM-free, full access to the forum, which is just a fantastic place to hang out, all sorts of goodies. And of course, lifetime subscribers get added to this here fancy pants, amazing Lunduke lifetime wall of shame, of honor, glory, whatever you want to call it. I've got a couple more names I need to add up to there right now. My apologies to all of you who have written in to request that you get added to that wall. I haven't updated it today. I'll do that before the next show. But I'll add you there at request only. I'm not going to out anyone without them asking for it. So again, go to lunduke.com if you want to get a hold of me around that. If you haven't grabbed a subscription, grab one now, just because it's cheaper. The 50% off everything, lifetime, monthly. Monthly's like $3 right now. I mean, it's so crazy cheap. So again, just go to lunduke.com. There's a link there for that, and it'll make you super, super happy. And with that, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, nerds and nerdettes across the inner tubes, I do declare end broadcast.